A language is a language. You study it for a few years and now you're perfectly fluent and you can speak it naturally. Like that, simple. Well, that could work for some, but that wasn't my experience, and that wasn't the experience of a lot of people who I went to class with. So clearly, something is wrong with this paradigm, with this idea of sitting in a classroom and just out of nowhere being fluent, right? So what is wrong with that? Well, I think I figured out, and it all comes down to one simple question. Why? Why do you want to learn English? If you haven't stopped for a second and really think about what is your goal and why do you want this, the chances of gaining mastery in it or really getting to be fluent are left up to luck. Because I've seen a lot of people sitting in a classroom just waiting and hoping that they are going to learn based on what they're being taught. The percentage of people who have tried this and failed and just quit because they think they're not smart enough or languages are not for them or you're just dumb for English are way too high. So English doesn't have to be frustrating. It doesn't have to be this difficult. So today I want to share with you another way of looking at it. So let's start with that. Why is it important for us to think, why do we want to learn English? So let's break it down. Not everybody has the same motives. And the method that you're going to choose or you're going to use has to be according to the motives that you have or the goal that you're aiming for. So keep that in mind. Because one of the biggest mistakes inside the English industry is that they tell you that you need to learn like this. And this is the only way of learning, or this is the only thing that you need to do. And everybody has to learn the same way. But it is not necessarily true. So let's check some of the motives. These are very general, but still you can be in one of these. So the first group, you're forced. Either in school or in university, you are not very interested in learning English right now. Like it's not a priority of yours right now. Maybe you need to pass a test, maybe you need to have an interview to get a new job, something like that. It's not your biggest interest and you just need to do something with it. Maybe another example could be that you want to travel and you want to learn a couple phrases and you want to be able to understand a little. So you're going to learn words or basic things, but it's basically just one-time use. And you're not going to really but invest time in learning it and going all the way down with it. That is our first group. People who are forced or not very interested in learning for the future, let's say like that. The second group are people who are polyglots or people who enjoy learning languages. It's people enjoy the process of acquiring a new language. And so they don't have exactly a deadline or a plan. Maybe they do, but they are not forced to do that. So they enjoy it and they just go with the process. And the third group, and I want to really emphasize and to focus on this group because this is the people who I really want to help and to share all of this concept with. And these people are looking for a better opportunity or new ways of doing things, maybe move abroad, maybe get a new job, maybe earn more money. But English has been a barrier. Maybe you have a salary in mind, a job in mind, but they're requiring English and you're not fluent. So it is a barrier. Maybe if you want to pass a test, if you could, you can memorize the answers or rehearse a little interview and that's it. But if you're going to work, if you're going to immigrate, and if you're going to live in an English-speaking environment, you need to be functional. You need to process the language in real time and to be able to flow right now in the language because you're working and you're living in it. So let's start with that. If you're in this group, maybe you really want to acquire it like that to be functional. This is a group that needs fluency. That is what you need. If you're in this group, fluency is what you're aiming for. But what is fluency? Fluency could be defined in so many different ways. But here, in Broken Barriers, in this channel, fluency is the ability to process the language in real time, right now, in the moment. You can respond, you can interact fast, as you would in your native language. So that is fluency to us. To do that, to be functional English, you don't need to be perfect. You don't need to have 100% accuracy in your grammar, or you don't have to sound it specifically like a native and perfectly like a native. You don't need that. You don't need that to function in real time, as long as you're being understood. So let's look at me. Sometimes I'm slow, I stutter, I mess around my words. I don't know if you have heard grammar mistakes here, issues with that, maybe my pronunciation, maybe something. And you can tell that I'm not native. Maybe the accent is strong, I don't know. But I know that my English is not perfect. But if you can find those mistakes in this video, in what I'm saying, well, that's the point. You don't need to be perfect in order to function, as long as you're being understood. Because perfection and the desire of sounding like a native could get in your way of really gaining that fluency. And I can really tell you firsthand that with my imperfect English, you can unlock a lot of opportunities, a lot of other things, because let's be honest, that specific skill of learning English pays more and gives you more opportunities and gives you more chances of doing something different with your job, with your profession, with your life, basically. And I'm doing all of that. I'm working, I'm traveling, I'm exploring everything with my English, my imperfect English, but functional. I can function in the moment. That's it. Oh, all of this is thanks to my English, but not because of English. English is not a barrier for me anymore because I'm fluent. But English and becoming fluent doesn't mean that you're going to have success right away, out of the gate. You're gonna be successful. You need to have other skills. Of course, you need to develop something else or maybe focusing in something different. The thing is, English is the tool that you're going to use to get where you want to be. That is basically the goal of this channel. Break that barrier. That's why this channel is called Broken Barriers, because we want to get that down, and why wouldn't you be able to do it? Because if you are talking your native language, you can talk in English. It is the same process. But before I tell you all about the concept and all about how are you going to do this, I am inviting you to think of it. And there are a lot of questions here that you can think of, you can meditate on. And this is, are you committed? Are you decided to learn English, or do you want to pass a test, or do you want to use it just once and you don't want to spend a lot of time? Or maybe you're looking for magic or tricks or hacks, or maybe you're looking for perfection or a lesson. In this channel, we're not going to make lessons. We're going to give you tools to get where you want to be, that is being fluent. And think about it as a body goal. I'm not an expert in gym and nutrition and all of this, but I know, and it's obvious, that somebody who wants maybe to gain muscle is not going to follow the same diet or the same thing as somebody who wants to gain weight. Or somebody who wants to be flexible is not going to do the same as somebody who wants to be a real athlete or run or cardio. So you need to think about what you're going to use and what are you aiming for. Because the downside, and sometimes when you don't know where are you going, I just want to learn English, I just want to be fluent, I don't know, I'm not sure. You can use methods that are going to slow you down, that actually are not going to help at all, or maybe are not as efficient and as fast as something else could. So you need to think about that, and you need to know exactly what it is. Because academically, they're handing you a book, fill the blanks, memorize, and read, and they are doing it backwards because you want to be flexible in the language, and filling a blank is not flexible at all. You don't see a child reading a book before even try to talk. They just talk. So the main idea of this channel is help you become fluent. How? Well, like nature says, as children. And maybe you have heard this phrase somewhere else. You need to learn like a child would. Well, yeah, we're basing everything in that, but the thing is that we're not children anymore. Our brain has changed. We have other things in our mind, and let's be honest, our brains are not the same. So the paradigm is all about observation and how we can work with our adult minds as children would do. And hey, I'm not the expert, but if something that I said today resonated with you and you want to know more, I'm gonna bring the actual expert and the actual observant who has been helping through this method. With an old program that he had, he helped hundreds of people become fluent, going for the goal that they want, without English being a barrier. So if you want to know more about that, the next episode I'm gonna bring him, and he's going to tell us, and we're going to discuss a little, 10 things for you to become fluent based on this paradigm. If you find value in this content, you can share it with somebody else who needs it, or maybe leave a comment or a question, or let me know, why do you want to learn English? Which group are you? I'm gonna be reading you, and I'm gonna leave the video somewhere in the screen, and let's go with that.